Sample interview questions. Yes, you heard me. This video is all about compiled interview guide questions based on my interview experiences and base na rin sa compiled questions from different foreign English teachers out there, especially here in Taiwan. But of course, these questions are not only for those teachers na gusto mag-apply dito sa Taiwan, at syempre pati na rin sa mga teachers na gusto mag-apply sa bansang Vietnam, Thailand, Uzbekistan, China. I believe that interview can basically become a deciding factor kung tatanggapin ka ba ng employers mo, regardless of your credentials. You know what I mean? That even though you get MA or doctoral, you get your doctoral degree, pero hindi mo binigay yung best mo during the interview, then I think that would be a big factor kung tatanggapin ka ba nila o hindi. That's why I do believe that if you fail to prepare, you also prepare to fail. Ano ba yung mga dapat nating paghandaan? Of course, the interview. So this video will help you practice and prepare for your upcoming interview. But before we start, ganito yung magiging sequence natin. I will show you the question, and then i-post yung muna yung video, and then try to give your answer. And after that, I'll give my tips and suggestions kung paano nyo sasagutin. We have different perspectives, different ways kung paano natin sasagutin at tatakihin ang isang tanong. Again, pause the video first, followed by tips and suggestions. I already prepared those common questions na maaaring itanong sa inyo, but I also uploaded in the description below yung mga other sample questions na maaari pa rin yung ma-practice. Make sure na i-download yung mga sample interview questions na yun. Let's begin. Number one most common question is, introduce yourself. Paano ba natin sasagutin itong tanong na to? Napaka-basic lang po ng tanong na to, and you can also prepare your answer for this question in advance. Commonly, ang self-introduction will act as compass for the interviewers sa mga follow-up questions. Kaya dapat make sure na introduce mo yung sarili mo, make sure na lahat ng sasabihin mo doon ay alam mo by heart. Kasi most of the times, may mga follow-up questions yung mga interviewers regarding sa mga sinabi mo, yung mga include mong details sa self-introduction. Maaari ka nilang tanongin dito. And yes, you can practice this ahead of time. Make sure to include your personal information like your teaching experiences ninyo, teaching strategies, your philosophies. And don't forget before you answer to take note of the time that they given to you. Sometimes kasi nagbibigay sila ng introduce yourself for just 1 minute, introduce yourself for 2 minutes, or kailangan maging aware tayo dun kasi kapag hindi mo sila sinunod sa given time, hindi maging isang reason na yun para hindi ito sumusunod sa instructions. I will not delve too much in this question because you can always practice this ahead of time. And make sure to review all the documents you passed, including the SOP, resume ninyo, pati yung sample video and introduction ninyo, yung sample demonstration video ninyo. Make sure na alam niyo po silang lahat by heart kasi tinatanong po nila yan sa interview, especially kung nag-apply ka sa TFTTP. Number 2 questions. What are your classroom strategies or teaching strategies? Make sure pag na-encounter mo itong question na to, mag-focus ka sa student-centered classroom. You can also include the idea of ICT or technology integrated classroom. Yung game-based learning, yung gamified na sinasabi nila, yung cooperative learning, differentiation. I remember in my interviews, sinabi ko, in my classes, I usually use the 80-20 rule, wherein the 80% refers to the student's participation and the remaining 20% is the teacher. It's for the teacher. I believe that exposing learners to differentiate learning activities as well can help boost their learning. While regarding students' diversity, so it could be done through different strategies, could be done through different approaches like through games, traditionally, or even with the use of modern technology, so yung tinatawag nating ICT. And make sure kapag magsasagot ka, don't forget to add realistic side of your answer. What I mean is, kapag napakaganda kasi nasagot mo, masyadong hindi na siya authentic. Isa sa mga comments na na-receive ko nung nandito na ako sa Taiwan kung bakit ako na-hire is because of the authenticity. Naramdaman nila sa akin na itong tao na to authentic. Or sabi nga nila, if you put too much sugar on something, magiging sobrang matamis na siya. To explain it, too good to be true, yung iyong sagot. Paano ko ba yung ginagawa? Example, sinabi mo na 80-20 rules ng ideal classroom. Pero pwede po nating dagdagan sa huli na. But I honestly believe that doing this kind of approach is kind of tiring. Nakakapagod naman talaga. Pero make sure na maidadagdag ka doon, yung positive thing. Even though it's kind of tiring, it's still blah blah blah. So it's always based on you na kailangan lalabas din yung pagiging totoo natin. Kung minsan yung pagiging authentic mo sa mga sagot mo, yan pa yung magiging reason para matanggap ka. Number 3 question. How do you manage your classes? Or in other words, classroom management. This question is really crucial too, because this question reflects who you are as a teacher. Kapag ganun ka ng mga interviewers ng ganitong tanong, they want to know you exactly kung ano mo minamanage ang iyong klase in general. The moment you enter the classroom, the rules you created with them, with the students, take note palagi with the students when you create rules with the students, how it should be followed. If there are punishments, what would it be? Technically, almost everything kapag sinabi natin classroom management. The reward system, paano mo ba hinahandle ng mga bata, yung mga follow-up questions na binibigyan ng interviewers, paano kapag nagtuturo ka ng elementary, paano naman kapag nagtuturo ka ng high school, at maging aware tayo dyan sa pagkakaiba nila. Basically, you should know yourself first. And ito yung advantage ng may mga experiences. May mga experience na sa pagtuturo. Kasi you can just be yourself. Try to express your experiences. Be as authentic as possible. Number 4, how do you use ICT in your classes? Give example. Once na narinig niyo yung tanong na to, it definitely refers to the use of technology inside the classroom. Kaya dapat alam mo palaging isang o integrate ang technology sa iyong classes. Ang tanong na to ay madalas na naitatanong during the interview. Technologies or ICT is basically a modern teaching aid. Dapat i-integrate ninyo ang technology sa inyong lesson. ICT makes the learning fun, engaging, cooperative, productive, so on and so forth. Kaya dapat aware tayo kung ano yung mga benefits ng paggamit ng ICT inside the classroom. And yes, ICT is the best friend of this generation. Tapos paano mo idadagdag ulit dito yung realistic part? Kasi di ba ideal part yun? Ang tekniko kasi palagi sa pagsagot ay combined ideal and realistic answers para sound authentic ka. Tingnan mo dito yung weaknesses ng paggamit ng ICT. Always remember that using ICT in the classroom is also a skill to practice because it might ruin your classes otherwise. Pagdating naman sa mga examples, dapat may alam ka rin mga examples kasi naghihingi sila ng specific examples. For example, you can use the quizzes, Padlet, what else? Yung mga self-designed games using PowerPoint. In my case, I remember sinabi ko yung poll everywhere. Since in my TESOL classes, we frequently use poll everywhere. Okay, search po yung poll everywhere wherein you can definitely use it to track your students' answers. You are having discussions, blah, blah, blah. Make sure na meron kayong mga examples na kaya nyong i-explain. Number 5, how will you teach the 4 macro skills in one session? So I was asked specifically about reading strategies. At dahil na sa tanong na to, inisip ko na baka hindi ako makapasa. Kasi hindi ako nakapagbigay ng specific sample reading strategy. Although na-explain ko naman ng maayos yung gusto kong gawin, but ang hinihingi kasi nila, anong tawag sa activity na yon? Be mindful na mayroong mga interviewers na napaka-specific. Kaya dapat may alam ka na strategies sa 4 macro skills na yun. Yung listening, writing, reading, speaking. Anong may apply yung 4 macro skills in one session? So you can basically say na in my English classes, I provided a literary piece that serves as springboard. So it could be nagpanood ka. So maririnig nila yun. Dito magpapabasa ka. So you already apply the reading. And then may papasagot ka sa kanila. Then that will be writing. And then perform, that will be speaking. Number 6, how would you communicate with your co-teachers with low level of English? Ito hindi rin ito nawawala. Kaya dapat alam nyo kung ano isasagot dito. Paano ka makikipag-communicate sa mga local teachers na hindi ganun kagaling mag-English. Ang tanda ko dito, ang sinagot ko, of course, with the use of technology, we can use our phones as our translators. At ang pinakamahalaga, pwede nyo sabihin dito na you can use simplified or simple English to communicate with them. Kapag talagang hindi pa nila maintindihan, you can add body language, like gestures. You can also act it out para maintindihan lamang nila. Also, you can add that you have the patience para turuan sila, para unawain sila for the sake of good partnership and for the sake of your students as well. Number 7, how would you group students of different levels and what activities will you give to students with different levels? Ano ba yung gagawin natin kapag iba-iba? Napaka-common ng tanong na to at dapat alam nyo rin sagutin to. Definitely magkakaiba talaga ang level ng mga estudyante inside the classroom. May mga low, may average, and high achievers. And definitely when it comes naman sa pagbibigay ng activities, you can provide them choices. You can group them, divide the group based on their levels. Like magbibigay kayo sa isang grupo na may low, may average, may high achievers. So, depende po. Pag-isipan nyo yan dapat in advance. How would you encourage students to learn English? Paano mo i-encourage yung mga estudyante mong matuto ng English? So, definitely, you can also search this question in advance. Ang gusto lang marinig dito ng mga interviewers mo ay yung ideal part. At kung makapagbibigay ka ng sarili mong suggestions, much better. But for example, by explaining them and showing them the benefits of English, paano makakatulong ang English in their life, ano ba yung benefits ito sa kanila. Or at the same time, kapag naman magtuturo ka, para ma-encourage mo sila mag-English. Make sure your discussions are engaging, fun, something like that. Motivating, rewarding. What is the biggest challenge you had in your teaching career? Na-prepare mo rin yung tanong na to kung ano yung most challenging experience you had in your teaching career. What will you do if you have a troublemaker student? Most of the countries na pinag-applyan ko, 5 countries, tinanong tong tanong na to. Anong gagawin mo kapag may magulo troublemaker kang student? Halimbawa, pag may nag-away na estudyante sa classroom, since there is a language barrier, ano yung gagawin mo as a teacher? So definitely, ang sagot ko dito, sobrang challenge talaga nung tinanong sa akin yung question na to. Nasabi ko na lang, babawalin ko sila using, sweet, soothing, very soothing manner. Kasi sabi ko, I believe that behavior is a universal pattern even though we have different languages. Ang behavior, I think, napaka-universal niyan. And your gesture, your body language is also a universal thing na maiintindihan ng mga bata. Even though magkakaiba kayo ng language. And ang pinakang-last kong sinabi dito, with the help of my co-teacher, I can also seek help to my co-teacher. May ka-partner kang teacher doon. So, the discipline thing is mostly responsibility ng mga local teacher. Next question, how will you deal to students' parents? Kailangan mo lang mag-focus sa isang bagay dito, professionalism. The idea of professionalism, as much as possible, kailangan mo maging professional at all times. How can you ensure that your activity in class is not treated as playtime by your students? Kasi minsan, sobrang student-centered na yung klase mo, nalilimutan mo ng mahalaga pa rin yung natututunan nila. Hindi lang basta laro, diba? Pwedeng isagot mo dito, maggawa ka ng rubrics, criteria, guidelines, para may susundin ka. Hindi lang basta maglalaro yung mga bata. What is your greatest accomplishment in your teaching career? Kung kanina weakness, ito naman yung greatest accomplishment mo. Kaya dapat aware ka din dito. So we have our different accomplishments in our teaching career. Next, how are you going to handle classes with a maximum of 20 to 30 students inside a classroom? Kung ng tanong na to, natawa pa sila kasi ang sagot ko. That's a very simple thing because honestly, in the Philippines, we have like 30, 40, 50, or even 60 students in one classroom. And tawa pa sila. Kailangan mag-isip dito ng ways kung paano mo i-handle. At the same time, hindi man left behind even a single student. Yun lang yung gustong marinig nila dito. During your activities, like group participation, group collaboration, isa yun na pwedeng isama ninyo sa sagot ninyo. Other questions na kailangan nyo maging aware, eto, how would you incorporate English to other subjects? Dapat alam nyo rin to. What is your greatest strength and what is your weakness? Sinabi ko na kanina. What is the difference between ESL and EFL? Ito yung pinakahuling tanong sa akin. Anong pinagkaiba ng ESL and EFL? I-search po yung pinagkaiba nito. Lalong-lalo na yun, ano yung pag-a-applyan yung bansa? Is it an ESL country or an EFL? Basically, kapag ESL, from the meaning itself, English is a second language. Tayo kasi English, second language natin ang English. So basically, Philippines is an ESL country. Meanwhile, kapag EFL naman, English is a foreign language. EFL, foreign yung language na to sa kanila. And in Taiwan, yes, it's EFL, not ESL. So, dapat alam yung pagkakaiba nito. Follow-up question sa akin sa tanong na to, paano yung pinagkaiba ng ESL sa Philippines and paano mo babaguhin or i-modify yung teaching strategies mo dito pag nagturo ka na dito since we are EFL. Another question would be, why are you interested in the program? How do you see yourself 5 years from now? Which do you prefer, junior high school or high school or elementary? What do you know about a country, for example, Taiwan, Vietnam, Uzbekistan, China? What do you know about our country? Ganun, kaya dapat nagre-research din kayo in advance. What would you do if a child tells you that he or she is being harmed by someone, given that you don't understand their language? Anong gagawin mo? So, kailangan mo syempre seek help palagi pag hindi mo naintindihan. Sa mga co-teachers, sa iyong directors. Always remember to be careful when giving out answers. Since interviewers may ask you for a follow-up question, palagi may mga follow-up question yan, kaya be careful palagi kung ano yung mga binibitaw mong sagot. Kasi minsan, sobrang kaba mo, hindi mo na alam mga sinasabi mo, and then, bigla magugulat ka na lang kapag may follow-up questions based sa sagot mo. Again, I provided a link in the description below para makita ninyo yung other sample questions and make sure na i-practice nyo pa yun. Kung wala ka pang idea kung paano mag-apply abroad, especially here in Taiwan, I created a video from the very application process up to the process of OEC. And if you want this kind of video, educational videos, travel videos, don't forget to subscribe for more updates. This is Teacher Ken in Taiwan. Thank you.